It is time to announce the first 4 contestants, and they are Paulina, Death Tacticus, Kat, and Morgan.
Oh, so what a lineup, huh?
Yeah, a great lineup to start up. Now we do have about 14 players who have signed up for this tournament, and they have been placed in random order. Well, semi-random order. People not showing up on time and etc. means I had to shuffle some people around, but these are our first 4 players, so I'm ready to go. I think our players are ready to go. Now, the first match, all the locations are random. I forgot to say that as we wait for Death Tacticus to load in, so we have no idea whether we're playing on Ceres, Io, or Mars, and it is Ceres. So, welcome to game number 1 of Offworld Kings FFA. This first game has Death Tacticus, Kat, Paulina, and Morgan. As you might have heard already, I'm Philothanic, and apparently we have a black screen, which is odd.
You have a black screen. It's all fine here.
Hey, now we have it.
Great. Oh, so we're looking at a rather sparse map here, in
yeah,
my
the
opinion.
map gen was not nice to us.
So how much do the players want to take on to secure one of the more luxurious spots? I do see a couple of nomad spots maybe, but then again there's double price in electronics.
Yeah, this is a hard one to find. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of robots because we do only have robots, scavengers, nomads, and elites in this match. And just scrolling over the map, there's really not anything that screams out "found now," which is why our players are waiting for 700. I mean, there's this nice iron patch in the top, but it's not near anything. There's some odd irons, the uranium, and some water down in the southwest corner. There's that silicon that you mentioned, but electronics is really high, so that's going to make both nomads and robots hesitate to found. There's not enough carbon really near each other. I mean, I guess you could go scavenger up here in the north side. There's some carbon near there, but once again, where's your aluminum and water, right?
A robotics HQ has been founded.
So,
My question is, anybody going to dare going elite?
Well, so elite does have that stupid pleasure dome that, you know, is what, 2.5x revenue right now, and so that's pretty good.
Ooh.
And I mean,
Kat does not pick any founds there. Oh, there we go. Finally, Kat founding as well.
Yeah, so let's take a look at our founds. So we did have Paulina founding first as this robot, going immediately into double water, some metal, and a farm. Has one more claim, but not enough money to put up that second farm. Going to chase this high food price. Same for Morgan. I think that Tacticus founded next though, but Morgan also chasing food. Going for
Morgan
this.
picking up both high water pumps too. It's quite sparse, the amount of water you can find from basic resources, but then again you can take advantage of the ice around the map. So I guess that's what we're going to see a lot of long term. Yeah,
so Morgan using the scavenger's ability that doesn't diminish resources to great effect with that cave there going, but I think that Tacticus is also slanting off of this high, so this high will diminish over time. Now the one thing about Morgan is Morgan's only operating off of 1 high carbon. Now that'll stay high for the entire game, but it's only getting 2 carbon per second. That's not a lot.
Luckily for him, there's no nukes around, so nobody can really diminish that, but still, it is no adjacency bonus. There's nothing like that. So it might be tricky. Yeah,
well, it does have the benefit that Morgan's the only one who's not going to be upgrading with electronics, which are continuing to climb as this is electronics colony. It did start double, and we do have 3 people using electronics for upgrading. One which is Death Tacticus, who founded in this nomad spot, pretty close together, but looking for that water and silicon. Was able to get up to HQ2, but going to need, these players are going to need to go into some carbon and start making electronics. I mean, Kat also using electronics to upgrade.
The tacticals need 10k in resources to be able to purchase up the electronic reactors to get the upgrade.
Yeah,
and I guess the same is for everybody else. Paulina have bought up 40. Morgan got to buy them up. No, that's glass. My apologies. Cat got to buy up 10k as well. So the electronics market.
Yeah, the electronics market is crazy. This extra claim will definitely help. So I expect it's going to go really high. Paulina's the only one with her HQ3 electronics purchased up, so she's definitely ahead of the electronics pack in that regard. Both Cat and DT need to find 10k from somewhere. Cat's almost there with 9k in the bank, but DT only has 7k, needs to come up with another 3k. Might be a little bit. Now this extra claim could help, but $36,000 in debt on Ceres, that's a lot, especially with power climbing to 150.
So what is he going to use the claim for? Seems to be popping down to nuclear plant. Is going to drop into this power market while it's neat and high. Is anybody really challenging him for that market? Let's do one nuclear plant out of Cat.
He's thinking about it.
Here we go, Morgan with 2. No, this glass counts. Just only 1 nuclear plant on him as well.
Everybody's moving into power though. Paulina's moving into double power. Still needs, needs 26 to get the upgrade total. She has 21. Tacticus needs 15, has 11. Cat needs 25k, has 4. So Morgan's the only one on HQ3 going for the Scavenger, upgrading with the glass, producing the glass that he needs to upgrade. So we might have a Scavenger win this game. We'll just have to see if Morgan can transfer this early up advantage into a long-term advantage, and then also can he upgrade fast enough with this one high carbon quarry, or is he gonna have to get teleportation and go really far away?
There is a potential long-term danger for Morgan, and that is if people start to tap into the electronics market and don't have sufficient of carbon income. That might rise the price so much that he's going to have issues upgrading to the later HQs, and we actually see people starting to freeze out his elementary quarry, completely crippling his income in carbon at the moment.
Yeah, needs another 30k carbon to get the upgrade. That's all he needs. Selling out of glass right now, just swapping things around. So Morgan's definitely going to need to go for some of these other sources of carbon far away, and that's what he does, picking this one all the way on the other corner of the map. But I have to wonder,
looking into maybe getting teleportation then long term.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I have to wonder if this nuclear plant should be a patent lab instead of a single black magic nuclear plant.
In his defense, fuel is not all that expensive quite yet, but with that long shipping, it's hard to make that cost really pay off.
No, that's going to change. Everybody on HQ3, Cat beat Paulina there, which was a little bit surprising. Paulina spending a lot of money going into these double nuclear plants, and I'm not entirely sure it paid off for her. In fact, she didn't earn any money from it whatsoever, and since everybody was in it, power has now completely crashed.
Morgan managing to buying into the chemicals before that shortage coming in, using his advantage as a scavenger to be able to do so. We also see that Tacticus was 76 in that market as well, so it's interesting to see who will be able to stay in the market the longest, who got the most balls, and who's going to lose because the one sells out before them.
Silicon auction right here next to the colony, in between these 3 deep water pumps. That Tacticus takes it and immediately uses a return a claim, or just return claim, I guess, to place it elsewhere. Still holding on to that claim, hasn't decided what to do with it just yet, and it's going out somewhere over here into a high carbon.
It was into 4 nuclear plants here, but luckily scrapping out of 2 of them as the power price is it's very low at the moment. We really want to put into something else, and there we see all of them being rotated out of the power and into electronics factories.
The electronics
does not cover his usage in the electronics though, so maybe we will see the carbon market creep upwards.
Cat is the first player into a patent lab, just finished constructing and immediately going for a patent that Morgan is going to want. Now, the one little thing that I didn't have time to mention, and then chat also noticed it, but Polina is slanting off of Morgan's second high carbon, so that will diminish over time. So just a nice little mean play from Polina there.
All the way up there. Wow.
Yes.
It's a long chipping path for Polina too. There's no ability to slant off the other one, maybe? The one
no, there
closer.
isn't. So unfortunately, it seems like the extremely long and annoying buyout music plays for observers too. So that's something that was just added in the recent patch. I do apologize. Look at Polina right here with this little crazy electrolysis chemical nuclear plant adjacency. Just making use of the robot advantages to a whole.
Gotta love it when you see it.
So 8 seconds. The teleportation for Cat. Morgan is on HQ4, but yeah, this music's going to get very old very quickly. I don't know if it's playing for you, but the buyout music's playing for me randomly.
Buyout music? I'm not sure. I don't recognize it. Polina, however, now with over 50k on hand or in resources, so she might look to get a upgrade, or maybe she is getting cocky and are looking for a buyout. Then again, I do forget that Death Tactic is on 84.
Yeah,
so he's really closing in and possibly looking and smiling at a buyout of maybe Morgan, who's the only one at level 4.
Yeah, it would be interesting if right now the 3 robots decide that, hey, let's gang up on the scavenger who's in the lead and make sure that the scavenger can't win. All of them combined, or at least Polina Death Tacticus, could split Morgan, and that would be a good idea. And then in terms of you being ranked for the tiebreaker, if Morgan were to lose, getting majority blot out does carry a penalty with it, so you do want to avoid that happening.
Yeah, there is a window here where Morgan is not even close to securing his own stock. The others, none of them have individually enough to buy him out. Death Tactic is being at 62%, so they do need to work together, which I will say is rather unlikely.
Polina's thinking about doing something, perhaps, at least defending herself. Now, the other thing that we could do, players could do, is Death Tacticus stock is tanking and tanking hard, but he just paid off a bunch of debt, so it's going to return back up in price compared to everybody else. So Death Tacticus, is Death Tacticus the only one making electronics?
It certainly seems so.
Yes, it did. Yes, he is. So Baloo's with an excellent suggestion in chat. Maybe Death Tacticus should think about putting down a hacker array and hacking up electronics.
What I don't like though is that he seems to be auto-selling the electronics. Being the only one producing it, I would say that's rather a mistake there from Death Tacticus.
Yeah, it does definitely help the other players. Polina with a calculated risk upgrading to HQ4. Death Tactic is still sitting here with a huge cash stockpile. What is he going to do with it? Everybody can defend themselves, so Death Tactic should probably just upgrade. Although if Cat upgrades, she's going to spend 51 out of her 70k on the upgrade, and then might be in danger of being bought out.
The Tactic has got a massive issue, and that is he's currently consuming more silicon than he's producing and needs 360 silicon to upgrade. That's a total of 53k worth of silicon that he now had to buy to get to the upgrade. And look at that silicon price, 170. Most of the Tactic's money going right into that market. Yeah, definitely not something you want to be. Place you want to be. Death Tactic is swapping out of those nuclear plants into silicon. Each of those low tiles is producing between $250 and $300 a second with the adjacency bonuses. Morgan, operating off of these 2 carbon tiles, is on HQ5. I'm probably going to be the only one on HQ5 for a moment. Everybody else just finally getting to HQ4, and then Morgan just in a ton of electrolysis reactors, in a large part because of the shipping costs.
I still think a patent lab would be a good idea for Morgan, and perhaps he's thinking about it. Does have a hologram tile, at least moving into nuclear engine, so that way you can swap between nuclear, uranium, or fuel for your transports.
Overloaded circuits create problems. Bid now to annoy your rival.
I have to say the prices are still staying reasonable for being Ceres we're playing on Offworld. So we haven't seen any. Oh, we have seen 2, now 3 of the so-called optimization centers. That was about time. I was about to say. Ceres, you usually want to see optimization centers out to start optimizing your production as the prices are rather high. Offworld market is not too lucrative.
I mean, it's really hard to put up an optimization center. 28k for our robots, 28k also for Death Tacticus, and 26 for Morgan. And most of that's in electronics, and electronics is 571 and not coming down anytime soon. We should see more players moving into electronics, I would expect. I'm a little bit surprised that Cat hasn't moved into electronics. She does have the elemental core, she does have teleportation. The only thing she's missing is silicon, but silicon is 99. So I mean, I'd risk it. Electronics is so high and you need it for the upgrade. Cat going into thinking machines, the only one without an optimization center, although only Death Tacticus optimization center is working, and Death Tacticus Polina both gets HQ 5 at the exact same time.
Yeah, base resources still seems to be rather high, with uranium at 133, aluminium over 100, iron close to 100, silicon over 100, carbon under 100, but still. So I think that's a lot of the reason why we don't see more stuff like electrolysis reactors, because while it is pretty nice with the 637, there is a lot of cost going into producing that, as the base resources are so expensive.
Right. And we can see Morgan's very high water is now a low, thanks to that Tacticus slant drilling in off of that cave. So Morgan's definitely disappointed that that play didn't work out as well as he would have perhaps hoped. Does have some solar condensers at the top.
Carbon anymore there.
We do have some mutinies going back and forth onto some optimization centers. Morgan finally in a patent lab himself, going for liquid batteries. That's a pretty good patent. I'm surprised that Cat hasn't gone for it. But Cat doesn't have any solar condensers, so perhaps that's the reason why. I'm interested why Polina decided to connect this optimization center to her base. I don't really see any reason for it, and it seems like it's a great little place to throw down a 20k power surge, because you hit that and then you go right through these 100 plus electronics factories.
High performance diet supplements.
Yeah, it is a good question. But then again, it always feels good to be connected. But maybe in this scenario, I do agree. Seems like a small mistake. And you could build your base in any other given direction.
So, Death Tacticus freezing Morgan's rotation into electrolysis reactors. Right now it is a battle between Death Tacticus, Morgan, and Polina. They're all very close in terms of cash on hand. All of them HQ 5. Death Tacticus definitely has the advantage right now, in a large part because Death Tacticus was in this electronics market for a lot longer than anybody else, and has also researched 2 optimizations in electronics, and now Death Tacticus immediately deciding that Polina is the longer term threat and going straight into Polina.
Yeah, so that's the thing. He managed to secure his entire stock before he made that aggressive move against Polina. So anybody now deciding to go against Death Tacticus have to buy up all that stock he's acquired himself. So he's in a prime position at the moment.
The hacker array is finished.
To take the game, yes. So the question is, if you are Morgan and a Cat, do you
What do you do?
buy into each other? Morgan all of a sudden having a little bit of issues making money, needing to transition a lot, and Carbon 216 definitely doesn't help. Very surprised that, okay, Cat did pick up nanotechnology and I just missed it, so that was a good pickup for Cat, as steel's very expensive, so that'll make her transitioning between buildings a lot easier, and that's probably why Cat has gone up into third right now in terms of cash on hand. Morgan just spending a ton of cash with these rotations.
Those filthy bandits.
But if you're a cat right here, aren't you tempted to go off to Morgan, see if you can get the buy and try and secure the second place? I mean, that at least secures her a new chance in the next game and keeps the streak going with 1 point from the series. I mean, from where I'm sitting, that seems like a reasonable way to play it out.
Right, well, even so, playing to win, I mean, you're probably not going to beat that Tacticus into buying out Morgan, Paulina, so going for Morgan, so the only other person on the board. But the other question is, so that Tacticus is seeming to stall out a little bit in terms of shares, hasn't purchased any more shares into Paulina, does have enough money to do so, but has been working this hack array, I believe.
I think Cat is going to make the move with Death Tacticus and try and overthrow him.
Perhaps. Cat is sitting on the largest cash stockpile right now. A lot of it is unfortunately in other resources that other players are in also. So that's a little bit of a mistake right there, although there's not a lot of auto-selling going on.
She got a lot of electronics stacked up and a lot of other resources as well. But that gap between them, it's slowly diminishing. But
yeah, it looks like so Paulina is definitely behind Tacticus in the shares, but it looks like Paulina's advantage as a robot on Ceres, not having to worry about life support or anything like that, may come and push her atop over this fight between her and Tacticus. If she bought 2 shares into Tacticus right now, she would have more money than Tacticus would. And hacking
crazy.
chemicals right now. And we have another hack on a silicon for Tacticus. Cat finally got into an optimization center of her own. And, Cat,
look at that food price. And there it goes down. Paulina getting aggressive against the Tacticus. The Tacticus trying to buy out the rest of Paulina's stock to raise his own price before Paulina can secure his stock. And the cat is just sitting there, and she can pretend to be the butler at the moment, or however you want to phrase that. She can decide to kill either one or sit passive and wait for one of them to buy out the other one.
Yeah.
Pending market adjustments.
I mean, Cat needs to do something with this huge stockpile of cash. She's going to be able to shift by anybody she wants in a few more seconds, and hopefully she realizes that. She does have
20 away from shift buying Morgan.
The engineers have advanced our production.
She does have a lot of money tied up into these optimizations. At least 2, only 2 queued up, but you know, chemicals are 250. So she does have the ability to buy Morgan, Paulina, and almost that Tacticus. She needs to throw that weight around, get a long-term advantage, turn this cash into some dividend income. Really big silicon hack by that Tacticus. That Tacticus almost has enough money to buy out Paulina. Needs 415, has 425, so does have enough. There's the buy button. That Tacticus does beat out Paulina with a better hack, and now Cat really needs to buy out Morgan this instant in order to have a chance against that Tacticus in the late game. Especially if Morgan's going to buy into that Tacticus, right?
But I mean, Cat can now really, I guess I like the play from Morgan. What he's now saying is that, hey, Cat, if you want to buy out the Tacticus, I'll help you out. I don't know if that's going to be enough to push Morgan over the Tacticus at the end screen. I reckon probably not. But he's at least trying his best to make himself as unattractive as possible.
Maybe Cat has so much cash right now that she might just be waiting to buy out that Tacticus straight up.
It's just 200k away from it, and look at that rate of growth right there. She's gaining 5k every second, it seems like.
Successful.
Yeah, so
just 1k from power alone. Wow.
That Tacticus is going to freeze this nice line on Cat, but Cat is 12% away from the buy. So she's right now going to ignore Morgan completely. Now, the only problem with this strategy is Morgan has quite the sizable cash pile of his own, so it'll be Cat with 2 subs and trying to earn back enough to buy out Morgan. If she can get this buy in DT soon.
Tacticus, she at least gets second place, right? Because of the rule that if you were to buy somebody, you place above them.
I mean, most likely, let's not not hypothesize about that until the results are actually there.
Okay. Oh, but she's very close indeed. She's almost got 100% of the tacticus. She can shift by him any moment now, just 10k away.
And that's what she needs to do. That'll give her be quite good in terms of being able to win this game. Death Tacticus realizing the threat's going to buy into Cat, forcing Cat to buy into Death Tacticus now, raising her share price, making it harder for Death Tacticus to get in. And then now things are getting a little bit interesting, because as Death Tacticus buys into Cat, Morgan's share on Cat is going to increase, already at 66%.
Ooh.
So we have a nice little three-way race potentially going on, but Cat is still incredibly close. I mean, Cat is going to beat out Death Tacticus before Death Tacticus beats out Cat. But the question is, will Morgan want to buy in the Cat before that happens? Now, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. We do have 95%. Cat is sitting on 600k, needs 624, so she should get this buy. Right now, she has it. She just needs to sell out of everything. But DT delaying just a little bit more by purchasing into some of these shares, so Cat really needs to sell down everything.
Morgan is 90% on Cat right here, so the longer that Cat delays it, and it seems that this Tacticus is helping Morgan out here. I mean, there is a possibility, but no, there is the red button, and Cat takes it. The Tacticus is bought out.
So, Morgan has no shares in Cat, unfortunately for Morgan. So it needs to start buying into Cat right now, which he begins to do. So the question is...
And as it does, his money disappears. 200k approximately on every buy.
Cat is going to sell out of her own shares, thinking, looks like correctly, that she will be able to out-earn the
Still don't quite like it though.
Morgan.
She got the long-term advantage with two acquired, what do you say, sister companies or whatever. So
subsidiaries.
Her speeding it up is not necessarily beneficial, but it does seem like she got it anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much.
Yeah, Morgan recognizing that Cat is going to win, calling out the GG.
What an interesting game.
What a very interesting game. Incredibly interesting. All our players are really close in this game, so I'm not entirely sure who's going to have the revenue advantages. But as we see, Morgan and Polina tied for third, Death Tacticus second, Cat first. We can scroll up and see why. So, Polina essentially tied with Morgan back when she was bought out, and then worse than Death Tacticus by a significant amount of money, so definitely alright there. DT more money than Morgan. DT was the threat there, so I think these results are pretty accurate.
They seem very reasonable indeed.
So I don't think anyone can complain there, but man, what a crazy game. Lots of back and forth between all of our players, and a very well-earned win by Cat for sure. Just getting into some key patents. I mean, I didn't know if those patents were going to play off, but teleportation, perpetual motion, and energy vault did some really strong, or very strong for Cat.
She made a lot of money on power. She was running positive there for basically the entirety of the late game, producing quite a bit. And I think she also benefit from having kind of a laid-back approach to it. Everybody else was fighting it out when she just waited to see what would be left when the fog removed itself. And she saw then that this Tacticus was the right person to go into. And therefore got the victory too. So pretty nice to see.
Yeah, and so there's one thing I didn't mention when I was explaining the revenue calculations at the beginning of the match, but the FFA ranks revenue calculation actually is a little bit more accurate than this endgame screen, because in a large part, the endgame screen, if you are hacking and you have a large stockpile of resources, that will not be put in this endgame screen. So if you're sitting on 400k trying to hack something up in stockpiled resources, this endgame screen won't show it. Now that's going to be fixed in the next patch, I believe, but don't quote me on that. So that's one reason why there has been some, revenue discrepancies between the tournament mod rankings and the endgame screen, and it's because tournament mod's more accurate, turns out.
Seems so. I want to point out too, though, that Morgan running on solo carbon really seemed to play out in Cat's advantage. Actually earned 300k on carbon, while Morgan bought up around 200k more than what he were able to sell. So they would see like Morgan's choice and Morgan's founder with very little carbon actually seemed to play out to somebody else's advantage. So that's what's so interesting with Offworld. There's always these possibilities. One action will always lead to different stuff, and it's kind of hard to see always, but you see Cat there managing to capitalize on such a small detail, but such an important detail too.
Yeah, I mean, look at Morgan. So Morgan didn't spend as much fuel as you might have thought, 133k. But I think if Morgan didn't have to spend any of that 133k because Morgan went into early teleportation, was able to use those tiles for something other than electrolysis reactors.
Indeed.
Like electronics factories or something like that. Longer, then might be a different story. So Cat going into teleportation, able to get those resources from far away without too much difficulty. And that allowed her to have a positive power of 293 to 49, so 250k earning in power. Just from eliminating shipping and using perpetual motion.